UFC Fight Night, Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Welcome to another UFC prediction and analysis video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris as usual, fight by fight breakdown and analysis from that betting perspective specifically. We want to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights to avoid, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action towards the end of the video as well. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. We'd greatly appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. And most importantly, we're going to want to hear from you in the comments when it's all said and done. For this UFC Fight Night event, it is taking place at the UFC Apex. We have 13 fights overall. 7 of them are on the prelims. 6 of them are on the main card. Let's get started right away with fight number 1 of our prelims. We are looking at Juliana Miller versus Luana Santos. Juliana Miller, of course, we know Ultimate Fighter winner. She lost to Veronica Hardy back in March. She likes to come forward with her jab, really aggressive with her stand-up. She's going to look to push that pace right away. Very little technique, however. A ton of improvements to make, but her pressure style could give fighters some problems. She does have the clinch game. She does have the grappling game. That's where her strengths are. She can land the takedown. We see the numbers there at 2 per fight. She's going to want to aggressively look for those submission attempts, as the submission average would suggest as well. Skill-wise, though, I think she has a lot to work on, but she keeps going. She's tough. She can brawl. Really gives it her all to try to get that win. She's going up against a newcomer. Luana Santos is making her UFC debut on a 2-fight winning streak. She's introduced as a judo-style fighter. In terms of her striking, she's going to work from the outside. Striking's okay. Definitely improving fight over fight. Still just 23 years old, as we can see here. A little bit of switch stance in her style. Expect fakes, expect feints, expect level changes. She's going to look to close distance and work her clinch game when it's time to do that. And to that point, she is good with the takedowns. She does have good top control. She's going to chain wrestle a little bit as well. The ground IQ is definitely there. When I break down these fighters, Santos, to me, the cleaner striker with better technique. But I think about Santos's last fight, her opponent, Jenna Bishop, that was in LFA, where I can see some similarities that could happen here. So watch that fight as some prep. Neither fighter was a striker or a pure striker, but the difference was that the opponent, Jenna Bishop, she was able to be more aggressive with the forward pressure. Bishop had some control time on the ground in each round, and Bishop was more durable throughout the fight, right? So I can see, I should say, Juliana Miller finding some similar opportunities in this fight. But something that Santos does very effectively is she uses her judo defensively when fighters try to land takedown on her. So I think about Juliana Miller's last fight. She couldn't land any takedowns at all, right? So she also couldn't defend the takedown at all. So I can see Luana Santos capitalizing on that. I say all of that to say that I do like the newcomer in this spot. Again, I think Santos's striking is better, even though neither fighter is a pure striker. I think Santos's groundwork is better as well. And again, I really just don't believe in Juliana Miller's skill level, for the UFC. And on top of that, Santos is the younger fighter that's improving at a faster pace. So when I line it up, I like Luana Santos to get it done here.
Yeah, this is a good fight for Luana Santos. I think Juliana Miller in her last fight looked horrible, and this is going to be a fight where I believe it's going to be a lot of grappling. Luana Santos, I think, is the better grappler. I know you mentioned her loss against Gina Bishop, but Gina Bishop is a multiple-time jiu-jitsu champion. She's kind of like a Mackenzie Dern, maybe not as good, but that alley, that high-level jiu-jitsu, some of the best jiu-jitsu you'll find in female MMA at this point. She's really high level, so her losing a grappling match to Gina Bishop, there's no shame in that. If you just do some research on Gina Bishop, you'll definitely see she's really credentialed in that area. In this fight, she's going to be the better grappler, as Harris indicated. I think she's going to be slightly the better striker as well in this fight. And I just like her scrambles off the in the grappling exchanges. I think that's going to be a big part of this fight. Again, they're going to be grappling. I got to go with Santos having the better grappling. Her wrestling's getting better. She also has a really good kick that she throws. So both of them, I don't really like their stand-up, but I like how Santos throws that kick, and it looks like she's definitely improving that kick as well. So I'm going to go Luana Santos in the first fight of the card.
Second fight of our prelims, Blackshear versus Jose Johnson. Blackshear beat Luan Lacerda back in June. Good patient striking, doesn't rush things at all. Not really too active, but he does pick his shots well. A lot of fakes and feints. He's going to commit to that forward pressure, and he can definitely be explosive. He's a really good grappler. 8 of his 13 wins are via submission. Very comfortable with that sort of clinching approach, kind of pressure you against the cage. On top of that, he can land takedowns, but his takedown defense isn't great. That said, he is active off of his back if he's looking for submissions, if he is taken down. Plus, he's really good with the scrambling and the positional work as well. Has that IQ on the ground for sure. Jose Johnson, UFC newcomer. He's coming from Dana White Contender Series. He's on a 3-fight winning streak, but it has been a year since he last fought. Good striking, good power, dynamic as a striker, good kicks, good distance control. I would say the ground IQ is there for him as well, even though his takedown defense is really not the best. Good scrambling, good positional improvements. Definitely has shown good work in those avenues in his Dana White Contender Series fights, to which he's had 2 of them. Blackshear, I'll keep this one short. Blackshear, I think, has to be the pick here. I think it's a few key factors that set him apart in terms of making a prediction. Firstly, I think about the UFC experience. We can't discredit that at any time. Both guys are good dynamic strikers. Both guys have good IQ on the ground, but at least comparatively for Blackshear, kind of a step down in competition compared to the UFC competitions that he's faced up to this point. I can see Blackshear landing takedowns like each of Johnson's previous Dana White Contender Series opponents, but I can also see Blackshear just being as dangerous with the striking, that patient approach that he has. Again, I think it can keep him out of danger. I think it can give him opportunities to land his. So really, more tools, more experience in terms of UFC experience on the side of Blackshear. So Blackshear is going to be my pick here.
Yeah, this is a grappler striker match. Jose Johnson, I think, is the better striker. He's very dangerous with his strikes. He mixes it up really well. If it stays on the feet, I think he's gonna have a big advantage in that fight. Plus, he's longer. He's a long, tall guy for his division. Blackshear, not short on his end, but the way he strikes, he doesn't use his reach as much as Jose Johnson. So I definitely see Jose Johnson controlling the range in this fight. But the big thing is the wrestling, the grappling, and Jose Johnson can't stop a takedown. And I think Blackshear has good grappling, good wrestling. He's strong. He's taken down better guys in the UFC, guys with takedown defense, guys with wrestling. He's taken them down at some point. Jose Johnson, who's mainly a striker, who has shown that he can't stop a takedown. I see Blackshear getting the first round, second round, but I could see him slowing down as the fight goes on because he doesn't have the best cardio. So it's going to be scary in the third round. Jose could be trying to come back, get the finish. He's a very dangerous guy. If this does not hit the mat, he's going to hurt Blackshear. But I'm going to go with Blackshear, banking the first 2, surviving the third round. And again, in the third round, he could be losing. If he gets a takedown, he can kind of ride out the round just to survive that round. So I'm going to go Blackshear with his grappling to get the win in this fight.
Third fight, we're looking at Jaqueline Amorim versus Montserrat Ruiz, or Montserrat Conejo. For Ruiz, for Conejo, I'll reference her by either name there. She hasn't fought in 2 years. She lost to Amanda Lemos back in July 2021. Southpaw, she can put the pressure on. She likes to come forward with her striking, and she is decent on the feet. A punch-heavy style, not really many kicks, but she can definitely throw combinations. She can connect quickly, has that explosiveness as well. Has a strong clinch with her frame. She's a shorter, stockier fighter, has a low center of gravity, uses that to her advantage in terms of a pretty strong clinch, a good wrestling ability as well. She's a 7-time Mexican wrestling champion, just to kind of solidify that skill set there. So she definitely will use that in her MMA approach. She's taking on Jaqueline Amorim who lost her UFC debut to Sam Hughes back in April. She's introduced as a grappler. 5 of her 6 wins are via submission. On the feet, she's okay. Doesn't really have a clear sense of direction, but she does keep her opponents guessing with some awkward timing, awkward movement as well. Pretty patient. She stays low. She offers up that occasional jab, has the big overhand right. But she's also offering up those level changes. Again, staying low with the level changes, ultimately trying to time that takedown. Her top control is good if she lands the takedown. The grappling IQ is there as well to be able to maintain, to be able to improve position. And we know the submission threat is there as well. As I mentioned, most of her wins are via submission. I'm looking at this fight. I'm looking at the odds for Amorim. And right away, I'm going to say stay away from the favorite. I don't think Amorim is worth a minus 250. In fact, I think this is anyone's fight. I think that Conejo, or again, Ruiz, or whatever you want to reference her as, I think that she is probably the more dangerous striker in this fight, plus having that wrestling ability. Amorim definitely has the grappling advantage. That said, my pick here is actually going to be the sizable underdog, Montserrat Ruiz, despite the 2-year layup that she's on. And the reason being, Amorim, I think about her debut, she looked good in round 1, but she kind of looked afraid of the striking of Sam Hughes in round 2. I think that Ruiz can be the more dangerous fighter with the striking. I think that on top of that, Amorim, pulls guard on poor takedown attempts that allowed Sam Hughes to kind of maintain top control and really bank the fight, right? Her cardio tank was completely gone. So these are all red flags for me on the side of Jaqueline Amorim, especially seeing her as a big favorite. Ultimately, you can't be too confident in either of these fighters because, neither of them could be UFC level when it's all said and done. So definitely hard to accurately predict whether you're going for the underdog, whether you're going for the favorite. But I'm going to take a chance on the underdog, Montserrat Conejo, the more dangerous striking, the wrestling, and some red flags on the side of Amorim. So yeah, Montserrat is going to be my pick.
Yeah, this fight could be a tricky fight. It could be a trap, but I got to go with what's on paper in this fight. I think this is going to be a grappling type of fight. Montserrat Ruiz wants to grapple. She's going to be grappling a better fighter in Amorim, a high-level black belt. And if this is grappling most of the fight, I think at some point Amorim's going to get a submission in this fight. So I do like Amorim in this spot. On the feet, I think they both need a lot of work there. I don't think a lot of the action is going to be done on the feet. I think the scoring is going to be done with the grappling. I think that's going to tell us who wins. And I got to go with Jaqueline. I know Sam Hughes got her tired, but Sam Hughes has that pace that she puts on these girls. And a lot of these girls, they kind of break down under that pace. And I don't think Ruiz has that pace that she puts. So I'm going to go Jaqueline here to utilize her better grappling to get the win in this fight.
Fight number 4 of our prelims, Josh Parisian versus Martin Buday. Parisian unanimous decision loss to Jamal Pogues. That was back in February. He's introduced as a striker, pretty agile considering his size. Solid movement. The footwork isn't bad either. He has a long jab. It's going to have the reach advantage in this one. Good regular usage of that jab, improved boxing overall. A sneaky calf kick as well. Doesn't hesitate to engage with his opponents. Also have to highlight with him a bit of a red flag, the way that fighters beat him. His takedown defense isn't that good. He's not really the best off of his back. He has shown he can land a takedown here and there, with solid ground and pound, but I don't really see that happening in this fight. Martin Buday, on the other hand, is on an 11-fight winning streak. He beat Jake Collier back in April. Decent stand-up. He's in control. He's tight with the hands. He's technically sound for the most part. He likes to fight coming forward, likes to close distance, pretty effectively. Solid jab. The combinations are there as well. He's going to have that sort of clinched dirty box tactic once he does close distance. And pretty good stamina, pretty durable as well, Martin Buday. I do think that Martin Buday should get it done here. He's the better striker. He's cleaner. He's more technical. He can work that clinch game if he needs to slow Parisian down. Buday should pretty much be better everywhere here, on top of being, super consistent, making good decisions on top of that. I mean, that said, it is a heavyweight fight. Anything can happen. So I can't really put a ton of confidence behind this pick, but Martin Buday should get it done here.
Yeah, for me, this looks like a possible trap as well. This fight, Josh Parisian, I believe, can, even though I think Buday would be the more effective striker, the better striker technically, but I think Josh Parisian has that style that he could outpoint Buday if this stays striking. If this stays striking, I think Josh can pull off the upset. And Buday hasn't really gone for many takedowns in the UFC. I've seen fights before the UFC. He does have a grappling game. He has a wrestling game. And when he gets on top, he's really, really dangerous. So he definitely knows what he's doing on the mat. There's a big grappling discrepancy in this fight. If Buday takes it grappling, I can see why Tapology has 94% on the Buday side. But if he doesn't grapple, this fight's going to be close, in my opinion. Buday needs to grapple. If he can't get a takedown, hold him against the cage. He has a really effective style. Boring, but he can keep you against the cage, adding points. And he's winning fights that way. I don't think he's lost a fight in the UFC. Josh, I'm not high on. I think he's one of the lower level guys in the UFC. So I got to go with Josh Parisian here I got to go with Martin Buday to win this fight here. Just being the better grappler. He does have a couple of avenues. He can get a takedown. He could even win the striking exchange. Also, he can just hold him against the cage, right? So he does have more ways to win the fight. Josh, I think he has to outland him for 3 rounds without getting hurt, without getting taken down. So I got to go with Martin Buday having an easier path to victory in this fight.
Fight number 5, Francis Marshall versus Isaac Dulgarian. Francis Marshall split decision loss to William Gomez in April. That was his first professional loss. Boxer wrestler type of fighter. Striking's not amazing, but he does have a solid jab. He does have good power. His combinations are solid as well. The technique is there as well. Good consistent pace with his striking. That said, his game is really predicated on his wrestling. His takedown entries are solid. His top control is good. He's good at finding submissions as well. 4 of his 7 wins via rear naked choke specifically. So that tells you that he's looking to take your back. He's looking to end a fight. He's going up against Isaac Dulgarian, who's making his UFC debut. He's an undefeated fighter. He hasn't fought in 18 months. Just 5 wins, but 100% finish rate. All 5 of those wins have come in round 1. Also has 4 amateur fights that kind of fit the exact same script. He kind of fills you out on the feet before he's going to start shooting in for takedowns. His top control is solid. The ground IQ is there. Physically strong. Knows what to do to stay on top. Mixes in dangerous ground and pound and legitimate submissions as well. Definitely a strong grappler. I think this is an interesting fight because Dulgarian, he looks like he has a good skill set while being completely unproven. But Marshall, in a lot of ways, is pretty unproven as well, right? So it looks like Marshall may be the more capable striker here, being able to rely on some of the striking more, some of that boxing, rather than only using the striking enough to try to find takedowns, which is something that Dulgarian does. I think the key to this fight is going to be who is better at stopping the takedown. Both of them should be able to land takedowns. I think that aspect could make this sort of a toss-up fight. But I think either way you look at it, Marshall kind of has to be the pick. Better striking, more decision victories, which is important, versus just round 1 finishes for Dulgarian. So that tells you if this goes into deep waters, it is more likely on the side of Marshall to come out with the win. Of course, the UFC experience, which we can't undermine. Plus, he competed 4 months ago, whereas Isaac Dulgarian has not competed in 18 months. So Francis Marshall is going to be my pick, but I cannot be too confident in this one either. I may have to see how they look in the weigh-in, but either way, my pick will be Francis Marshall.
Yeah, when you see Francis Marshall, you see a well-rounded guy, wants to grapple, wants to take to the mat, uses grappling advantages on many fighters. He's not going to have that advantage in this fight. Isaac Dulgarian is a Division II wrestling standout, 28-3 as a freshman. Um, a solid wrestler. He's going to be the better wrestler in this fight. The only red flag on the Dulgarian side, honestly, is the fact that he beats everybody in the first round. He has run through everybody he has fought, and flawless victories. But the problem is we don't know how he looks in the second and the third round because he's beating these guys in the first round. In the first couple of minutes, he's taking them down and then he's just smashing them on the ground. And he's improved his grappling. He has good back takes, good submissions. But again, like Harris mentioned, he's physically strong, and I think that's going to come into play in this fight. Francis Marshall definitely should have the striking advantage, but Isaac, being away for a while, knowing that he's coming to the UFC, I'm pretty sure he worked on this. I'm pretty sure he could come back as a much better striker. But I'm banking on his wrestling. I'm banking on that wrestling game, that top game that he has. I think if he gets on top, he can really put a hurting on Francis, maybe get a submission. But there are red flags on the Isaac side. He hasn't gone past the first round. He hasn't fought in the best opposition, but he does have that pedigree. And I could see him, because Marshall wants to grapple as well. So I can see Isaac definitely being the better wrestler and winning the scrambles, even getting in a dominant position, maybe get a submission. But I'm definitely going to bank that Isaac, who is a wrestler, I'm going to bank that he has good cardio. So I'm going to go Isaac here to get the win.
Fight number 6 of our prelims, we have Terrance McKinney versus Mike Breeden. McKinney lost to Nazim Sadikov. That was just last month, so he's getting back in there right away. We know he's a finish or be finished type of fighter, 100% finish rate, also has 6 losses, all via finish as well. He's a southpaw, dangerous hands, at least early in the fight, aggressive pace, dangerous striker in general because he is super explosive. That said, he's not really the most technical of strikers. Starting to show a bit more patience, more fakes, more feints, more level changes, more setups, starting to be a bit more smart with his decision making. His MO is his wrestling, where 3.7 takedowns per fight, 83% takedown defense as well. The cardio has been a really big red flag for Terrance McKinney. However, once he gasses out, he's prone to making a lot of errors. So we really have to watch out for that. He's going up against Mike Breeden, who, lost to Natan Levy back 16 months ago, 2-fight losing streak. 8 of 10 wins for Mike Breeden are by way of the KO TKO. He's also introduced as a striker, so you know what you're going to sort of look out for from him. The stand-up is solid. It's primarily hands. He's patient, almost too patient at times. I think he could benefit from higher, more consistent output. That said, he picks his shots well, especially when he does have a clear advantage in the stand-up. I've seen him close distance. I've seen him get clinched. I've seen him land takedowns. His last fight showed that his takedown defense isn't great, which could be a key factor for Terrance McKinney in this one. When I look at this fight as a whole, I think that it could be potentially a bad matchup for Mike Breeden, even though Terrance McKinney is filling in on short notice here. We know McKinney's one of those fighters that are pretty much always ready. Skill set wise, McKinney has the tools to win decisively here. He should definitely use takedowns the same way that Mike Breeden's last opponent, Natan Levy, did. Levy landed 9 takedowns against Mike Breeden. McKinney really should follow suit. The problem is that McKinney, of course, doesn't really always make the best decisions with his game plan. Short notice could definitely impact that. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Mike Breeden get the better of the striking and hurt or finish McKinney. That said, I think that McKinney needs a win here. I think it's good for the UFC if McKinney gets a win here. I think that this is a fight for him to be able to, pull out the W. So I think it's going to lead to him using his wrestling right away. There's no crowd, so he can be a little bit more focused rather than trying to entertain. And I think he pulls out the victory using the takedowns, using the wrestling, smothering Breeden for 3 rounds and, putting this fight in his favor, getting a necessary win. So I'm looking at Terrance McKinney to get it done because he needs it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think Mike Breeden is UFC level. I don't think he's that good. I think he should be on in like Bellator, PFL. Terrance McKinney for that first round is a UFC like he's a great UFC fighter for that first round. But as the fight goes on, he's shown that he kind of falls off. He loses a lot of fights after that first round or after a couple of minutes in that first round. But he always comes out blazing, comes out looking good, sharp, good wrestling, good power, really good power. And it's a tough one because McKinney has been gassing after the first round, but he's been fighting pressure guys that are a lot more dangerous than a Mike Breeden. So I'm gonna hope that McKinney's able to get this done in that first round. I think he can get him, take him down, hurt him a bit with some ground and pound, eventually get a submission. And if he doesn't finish him, I think he should have enough cardio against a Mike Breeden. I think he should be able to hold Mike Breeden down in certain positions, get his cardio back, ground and pound a bit more, stay on top, hold him down for a minute, get your cardio back. I think he needs to pace himself. And if he does that, I think this is an easy win. But yeah, I think he's going to go out there, get that takedown in that first round. How I see the fight, ground and pound a bit, getting the submission. So I'm going to go Terrance McKinney to get the win, but always concerned about that cardio. But this is a much lower level opposition in Mike Breeden.
Let's talk about the final fight of the prelims. In that case, JP Buys versus Marcus McGhee. For JP Buys, he lost to Cody Durden 14 months ago. He's on a 3-fight losing streak now. Solid, quick, high-paced striking, solid striking technique as well, with solid combinations. But he is going to want to take you to the ground, right? Decent wrestling, decent takedowns. I like his top control. He keeps you on the ground. Really good submission attempts as well. He's a pretty good grappler. Going up against Marcus McGhee, who beat Journey Newson in his April debut. You see his record there, 7-1. He has a 100% finish rate. He's a pretty solid striker, picks his shots well. He's patient. He's explosive. He has really good movement. A little bit of switch stance as well. Likes to be that fighter coming forward. Likes to be that fighter closing distance. He's looking to land, good accuracy, good power as well. He also showed you good takedown IQ and good takedown defense in his debut. And he also finished that fight via submission. So he's not a one-dimensional fighter by any means. One important thing to know here, JP Buys, he's back up to 135 in this fight. He competed at 125 for a little bit. McGhee, we know, fought on short notice in his debut at 140 catch weight. So that should speak to McGhee having the power advantage, the strength advantage, the size advantage in this one. He's going to have 2 inches in reach, 3 inches in height to go along with that. I'll keep the prediction part of it pretty short. I don't like this matchup at all for JP Buys. I think that JP Buys is chinny. 3 of his 5 losses via KO, TKO, and Marcus McGhee hits hard. On top of that, McGhee has good takedown defense. He should be able to keep the fight on the feet, should be able to nullify JP Buys' takedown attempts. Again, McGhee has the physical advantages in this fight, and I think it will be evident. JP Buys, 3-fight losing streak, could be 4 after this one. He could get cut after this one. He may not be a UFC level fighter. So I like Marcus McGhee in this spot for several reasons.
Yeah, I think this is as close to a lock as you can get, man. And Marcus McGhee all day. JP Buys can't take punches. He's not able to get. JP Buys is gonna have to get this to the mat, and he's not strong enough or good enough to get Marcus McGhee taken down. And on the feet, we see Marcus. He throws heavy shots. His cardio, he can keep that cardio. He's better everywhere, right? And so I got to go Marcus McGhee with super high confidence. I would be super surprised if he somehow lost this fight.
Let's move on to our main card. Our main card has 6 fights overall. We're going to start with fight number 1, Josh Fremd versus Jamie Pickett. Middleweight scrap here. Josh Fremd beat Sandrick Dumas. That was back in March. Decent jab. He likes to come forward. He picks his shots pretty well. Has decent timing. Good technique. Doesn't really go at a crazy pace by any means, but he has good toughness, good consistency with his pace, a good power behind it as well. Bit one-dimensional. Otherwise, he's pretty much going to rely on that striking to get him wins. Although he did wrestle in high school, he did land a few takedowns in his last fight, so that could be something that he does. Horrible takedown defense, though, and again, really one-dimensional above everything else, at least at this level. He's going up against Jamie Pickett, who is on a 3-fight losing streak. No shame in losing to Bo Nickel in his last fight back in March. He's a southpaw, bit more of a leg-heavy attack, kickboxing style of stand-up. Pretty quick with his striking. He's going to use that range. He has 4 inches in reach of an advantage for this one. He's going to use that range. He's going to fight from the outside. And he's athletic enough to close distance pretty quickly. He keeps his hands down, so that's going to make him pretty hittable as a result. Cardio used to be a red flag for him, still kind of is, but it is looking improved over his last couple of fights. And he can land takedowns, right? Almost 1.4 takedowns per fight. The takedown defense isn't amazing either for him, just 66%, which may be relevant for this one. I think either fighter has a path in this fight. So right away, that's going to tell me that Josh Fremd is definitely not worth the minus 350 here. I think that's insane. Regardless of if you feel Josh Fremd is going to win for sure, I don't think he should be that big of a favorite. That said, Josh Fremd, his striking should be better, or at least should be more dangerous. Offensively, they're probably just as capable of each other in terms of landing takedowns. Defensively, neither of them are great with takedown defense. Pickett has had questionable cardio in the past, like I mentioned, and that's probably what will cost him in this fight. I can see a fight that's pretty close throughout the fight, each fighter having those moments, but then I can see Pickett fading off as the fight goes on. And I think that's going to allow Josh Fremd to pull away with it on the scorecards. So Josh Fremd will be my pick here, but I want to be careful from a gambling perspective. This might actually be a dog or pass situation. But analytically, making a pick, I'm going to choose Josh Fremd to get it done.
Yeah, this is a fight. When you look at it on paper, you got to go Josh Fremd. That is my pick for the fight. But in regards to what Harris is saying, I definitely agree with him in this fight. Josh Fremd at these odds, he can let you down, right? These guys, they don't have the best striking defense. If he went out there with a dominant wrestling game and is able to stay on top and dictate the fight that way, definitely he looks like that type of favorite. But if he can't get the fight to the mat, and he's going to be fighting a guy in Jamie Pickett, who's not a good fighter, but Jamie Pickett is physically strong. He knows how to fight. And sometimes that's enough, right? And fighting a guy like Josh Fremd, where they both don't have the best striking defense, Pickett's a big guy. And if he lands a big, wide winging shot, he can definitely hurt Josh Fremd. So Josh Fremd is definitely my pick. I think he's the better guy. I think both guys aren't great, but Josh Fremd has potential. He's 29. Pickett's on his way out of the UFC. He's not really good anywhere other than his physique. Like, he's a big guy. He's a strong guy. But that doesn't win fights. So I'm going to go with Josh Fremd, but the odds that they're giving for this fight, you can't trust Fremd against many guys in the UFC when he's that big of a favorite, even if you think he's going to win the fight. One mistake is all it takes with these type of guys. But I'm going to go Josh Fremd to get the win here. Parlay piece, I think you could use it as a parlay piece, but I wouldn't bet big on this, make any big bets with this fight.
Second fight of the main card, AJ Dobson versus Tafon Nchukwi. For Tafon Nchukwi, he had his last fight 14 months ago. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Carlos Ulberg back in June 2022. Sits in that Muay Thai stance, really sharp, really technical. He's a decent counter puncher. He throws decent combinations. He likes to consistently close distance on his opponents. He likes to be that fighter coming forward. Look for, some clinch, dirty boxing from him as well. And I have seen him land takedowns on guys who can't really defend it. Just under a takedown per fight, just under 60% accuracy as well. So look for that potential avenue in his game. AJ Dobson, on the other hand, is 0-2 in the UFC. He was undefeated before making his way to the UFC. He lost to Armen Petrosian back in October. He's a quick starter, early aggression, high pace starts to his fights. He can be explosive with good power, with good combinations that connect. Good striking diversity, good long jabs, good straights. not afraid to engage with his opponents at all, and definitely has that ability to land takedowns. Good ground and pound, couple of wins via submission to his record as well. Important to note for this fight, Tafon Nchukwi back to 185 for this fight as a middleweight. He spent his last few fights at 205 as a light heavyweight. So, of course, that 20-pound weight cut could mean something here. Nchukwi is probably the better striker, at least better technique, higher level striker, in my opinion. So I can see why he is the favorite. But 6-3, not amazing. 2-3 in the UFC. That's going to tell the story of where I'm trying to go here. I think Nchukwi's only wins in the UFC are against lower level fighters. When he steps up and when he takes on a solid fighter like a Julian Park, like a Carlos Ulberg, he loses, right? So I say all of that to say neither fighter is really proven to me as a UFC level talent. I think the key to this fight is going to be AJ Dobson's IQ and Tafon Nchukwi's 70% takedown defense. Dobson definitely has a path to victory if he uses the takedowns. But Tafon Nchukwi, again, former 205er fighting at 185. He's probably going to get it done, right? 70% could be enough takedown defense to give Dobson some problems here. I do think there's good value on AJ Dobson, though, because, again, he has that path. For a few days now, I was going kind of back and forth on this one. I can see both fighters winning. I wouldn't be mad if you were on either side of the fence here, but ultimately I'm going to roll the dice on the underdog AJ Dobson. I think both fighters need a win. They're both on 2-fight losing streaks. And I think Dobson has a path of lesser resistance in terms of strategy, right? Landing takedowns. I think he's big and strong enough to land them, even though Tafon Nchukwi is coming down in weight. And I think that's going to help him to bank rounds in his favor. So again, can't be too confident here, but I do think AJ Dobson has a path. And I think needing a win, I think AJ Dobson's going to get it done. So AJ Dobson will be my pick for this one here.
AJ Dobson. Okay, Tafon Nchukwi. This is a good fight. Tafon moving down in weight. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. AJ Dobson has that wrestling. Right? And the thing with AJ, though, I don't think he can push that wrestling for 3 rounds. And I don't think he's the best submission guy. So I think even if he does get Tafon down, I think Tafon's going to find his way back up, or he's going to survive the ground. And as the fight goes on, AJ's not going to be able to get the takedowns. I think Tafon is the more dangerous striker. That Russian, I forgot his name, Tafon fought. He was winning that fight. And then, let me get his name, but he was winning the fight, and then he lost in the 3rd round. And this dangerous Russian just beat Dustin Jacoby. Harris, you know what I'm talking. Let me get his name. Name here.
Azamat
Murzakanov. That guy is going to make waves in the 205 division. Tafon Nchukwi was beating that guy up for the first 2 rounds. And then the 3rd round, his corner told him, I remember correctly, his corner said, go get him. Like they gave him advice to keep going, like go harder, maybe go for the finish. I forgot the words they used, but they told him to push. All he had to do was survive that round. He went out through that 3rd round, and then he got knocked out. He got knocked out in that round. So if he just survived, fought conservative, fought how he did the first 2 rounds, he would have won that fight. He would be in a different position than he is today. I think Tafon is a better fighter than AJ Dobson. AJ's wrestling is good, but it's not going to last for over a round or over a couple of minutes. And then AJ is going to be stuck on his feet. And at that point, I see Tafon, the leg kicks, the power. Tafon, I think, is the better and more dangerous and more technical striker. So I think he's a good pick here. I like the odds that they're given as well as a slight favorite. So Tafon Nchukwi, I'm on that side.
Fight number 3 of the main card, Polyana Viana versus Iasmin Lucindo. Women's strawweight fight here for Viana. She beat Jinyu Fry back in November. Solid striking. She fights tall in a Muay Thai stance. Good speed, good pace, good combinations, quick and accurate with her striking. Grappling wise, very active and offensive with her guard. Punches off of her back, submission attempts, things like that. I've seen her pull guard in some of her fights, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Usually bad in the UFC. Some cardio concerns as well is also a bad thing. Though she doesn't really fight at a high pace, she is a fighter that's going to slow down throughout the fight. For Jasmine Lucindo, on the other hand, unanimous decision win over Brogan Walker back in April. She's introduced as a striker, light on her feet. She can be explosive. She can throw a lot of combinations. She fights from range, but not afraid to close that distance, engage with her opponents, go toe for toe. The takedowns are also there for her. A bit of chain wrestling when she commits to it, decent top control. A good example of that, she landed 4 takedowns in her last fight. Pretty good grappler, good IQ, good positional improvements. Just 2 wins, 2 of her 14 wins via submission. So don't exactly look for her to end fights with submissions. But again, good IQ on the ground, good positional improvements, good takedowns, good grappler as well. I think this is a good fight. I think, both of these fighters are good strikers. Lucindo, in my opinion, is the better wrestler. The grappling may be 50-50 here. I like Lucindo in this spot because I think especially I can rely on her cardio more as this fight progresses. I also like Lucindo because Viana, like I said, she can be accepting of takedowns. She can pull guard, really just, 50% takedown defense. I can see something where Lucindo maybe doesn't even have the takedown landed, but Viana tries to, pull guard, tries to attempt the sub. Lucindo's grappling is good enough to stay safe. And now Lucindo is on top for, 3.5 minutes, right? So Lucindo's style to me offers more ways to win rounds. So she's the favorite here. I can see why, I can understand why. Just as dangerous, if not more dangerous with the striking. So a lot of reasons to like Lucindo here to get it done. Jasmine's going to be my pick.
Okay, is Polyana moving up in weight for this fight?
Looks like Lucindo may be moving down in weight.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Um, so Lucindo was already the bigger girl, obviously being in a higher weight class. She's gonna be the bigger girl come fight night. I think she's gonna have the forward pressure. Her striking, I think, is gonna be the more aggressive, the more effective striking in this fight. Plus, I think she can get the takedowns. I think Polyana has to go the submission route to win this fight. Um, Lucindo seems to have some type of black belt or brown belt, so she's definitely is aware down there. Should be able to avoid any type of submission. Or just keep it on the feet. I see her just beating her up over 3 rounds, mixing in the grappling, the takedowns, the body locks, the boxing. So I like Lucindo here. I see her marching or holding the center of the cage against Viana. And that's another big thing for the judges, what they look at when they see one fighter march and the other fighter down. And as Harris mentioned, Viana tires down. She slows down as the fight goes. And Lucinda has that dog, that fight in her. I like to see that in female fighters. And that's going to make me go to the Lucindo side. More dangerous girl, tough. And I think she gets this one done.
Fight number 4, we have Khalil Rountree versus Chris Daukaus, light heavyweight fight here. Khalil Rountree is on a 3-fight winning streak. He beat Dustin Jacoby back in October. Looking really dangerous, looking really focused in his last few fights. Almost renewed in a lot of ways. He has that Muay Thai stance. He's quick. He's explosive. He's really good technically. He implements a calf kick game plan very intentionally. Dangerous, especially in that first round for anyone. Puts on good pressure in addition to that explosiveness, in addition to that power. He can be taken down. I don't think that's gonna matter in this fight. But that is a general path that opponents have to victory against him. And like I mentioned, very dangerous in that first round. But on top of that, his cardio has definitely looked improved. Again, to the point of almost having a renewed focus going forward. Chris Daukaus is on a 3-fight losing streak. On the other hand, he lost to Jairzinho Rosenstrike back in March. It's his light heavyweight debut in this one. 10 of his 12 wins are via KO, TKO in that heavyweight division. Definitely have to respect the power. Got to respect the striking prowess that he has. Good hands, good hand speed, very accurate with his punches, pretty technically sound as well. 5 of his 6 losses are via KO, TKO. So he's been very unreliable by way of his chin in that heavyweight division. Gonna be a striking match here. I think neither guy is gonna land takedowns. So it could really just be about who lands first here. I am gonna side with Khalil Rountree. I like this new version of Rountree. I think he's, living up to that skill set that he's always had. Still just 33 years old, so still has a lot of life left in him. He's a high level striker, capable of adapting and figuring out ways to win, and that explosiveness that he has, right? I mean, we've seen Chris Daukaus hurt so often that, one explosion from Rountree can end it. We're always we're seeing Daukaus come down in weight here, which doesn't always fare well from a durability perspective, and he wasn't really the most durable fighter anyway. Daukaus may land that big punch. Let's not take away from his ability. But I do see, really so many other ways for Rountree to win with his striking outside of that one punch coming from Chris Daukaus. So Khalil Rountree is going to be my pick. Of course, there is some caution because despite the win streak, despite looking good, Rountree is one of those fighters where you don't know which version of Rountree you're going to get. But what makes me side with Rountree is the version that we've gotten during this 3-fight winning streak that he's on. He's looking dangerous. So if he can continue that going for 4 fights in a row now, I really like him to get it done here. If he all of a sudden switches it up and doesn't look great, that wouldn't surprise me either. But ultimately, my pick will be Khalil Rountree Jr.
Yeah, this is going to be a striking fight. This is going to be on the feet, kickboxing match, kickboxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing type of fight. Rountree is going to have the more weapons, the more tools, the better kickboxer. I got to go Rountree in this spot. He's in his division. He's gonna be the faster striker. Daukaus definitely has a puncher's chance, but I think Rountree over time is going to hurt Daukaus here. So I like Rountree to win this striking battle, being the striker on a much higher level. He's a much higher level striker than Chris Daukaus. Daukaus is pretty basic compared to what Rountree throws. So you have to pick Rountree in this fight, knowing that this is not going to hit the mat, and you got to go with the much better striker here, and that's Khalil Rountree.
Co-main event of the evening: Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. Swanson lost to Jonathan Martinez back in October. Good route, well-rounded veteran, still very capable with respect to his striking. He's dynamic, good movement, changes the pace, always trying to make you, trying to get a read on you while making it difficult to read and time him. Has that veteran IQ, has good combinations as well. He can land takedowns, though he does just land at a clip of a takedown per fight throughout his career. It's not really a strong part of his game. Also has the ability to grapple. He's a black belt. Really just one of those fighters who's going to be a tough out against anyone because he can pretty much do a little bit of everything. He's taking on Hakeem Dawodu, who lost to Julian Erosa back in September. Quick dynamic with the striking, a lot of fakes and feints, especially with that jab. Good long jab as well. Good usage of calf kicks, good patience. He's going to look for a shot. High level of technique with the striking. I like the striking speed as well as a counterpuncher. He's going to put well-timed combinations together. Not really a takedown threat. So 0 takedowns in 9 UFC fights. Just 65% takedown defense as well. When you look at Dawodu, losing to Julian Erosa, it can be very worrisome if you're on the betting side of Dawodu, especially when you see him as a sizable favorite here. Let's be real. Dawodu did not look great in that fight. He also missed weight in that fight, but I think that Dawodu has to be the pick here, right? I mean, he, like I said, didn't look great. Although Swanson is talented, although Swanson is competitive, Swanson's definitely past his prime, 39 years old. Dawodu, on the other hand, he may be in the ripe of his prime at 32. You almost have to bet on Dawodu having a much better showing compared to 11 months ago, right? Swanson's striking can definitely be tricky, just like Julian Erosa's striking was tricky, even more so than the way Julian Erosa's striking was tricky. Swanson can land a takedown or two like Erosa did. So there's definitely a path to victory, and there's value on the underdog that is Cub Swanson. And again, these co-main event slots, these main event slots, anything can happen. So I can definitely see and recognize the value on the underdog Cub Swanson. But Hakeem Dawodu, he has all the tools with the striking in a fight that should primarily be striking. And again, I'd bet on him ultimately having a much better performance than his last outing. So Dawodu almost based on trust, dare I say. How confident can I be in that case? I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But either way, Hakeem Dawodu will be my pick here.
Yeah, yeah. This is a good fight. It's gonna be an entertaining fight. I think the Julian Erosa fight was a tough fight. Being so tall, Julian Erosa 6'1", leans toward the 6'2" side. A big guy. He had an awkward style that Dawodu couldn't really get the timing down. He had the awkward style that was really affecting Dawodu all fight. And I think the reach, I think all of that was a big thing for Dawodu, who likes to kind of pick his shots. And he was fighting a guy that had a better reach, and he was like, again, throwing from odd angles. Cub Swanson, I think, is a bit more is he doesn't fight like that. He's more conservative in his striking. He does have wildness in his striking as well, but he's not as unorthodox to me as Julian Erosa. He doesn't have that reach. He's pushing in age as well. I think Dawodu, this is his type of fight where you can kind of fight at range, use his kickboxing, his kicks, and not have that pressure that Julian is coming with. I think Dawodu gets this one done. Cub Swanson's going to give him that striking fight. If he goes for a takedown, I don't see Cub Swanson really staying on top for like long periods or even more than one round. I see as it gets back to the feet, Hakeem's going to keep that distance and just outpoint him with the striking. He might even hurt Swanson as Swanson's getting older, but Dawodu is more technical. He's going to get the fight he wants, and I think I'm pretty confident here he gets this one done here. I like Hakeem Dawodu here to get back a win here.
All right, let's talk our main event of the evening, Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Luque, 2-fight losing streak. It's been about a year since he lost to Jeff Neal. Striking wise, constant pressure coming forward, but he's calculated. He doesn't really force things at all. He has a good jab, has good hands in general, good calf kick, really just good overall striking. The technique is there, good clean combinations, good power as well. Good clinch, has a good ground game too, even though he lands just half a takedown per fight. I'd say he definitely prefers the game on the feet. That said, just 61% takedown defense. So he's definitely a bit vulnerable there. And that could play its way into this fight, which I will talk about momentarily. Rafael Dos Anjos' submission victory over Bryan Barberena back in December. Now, at this stage in his career, 38 years old, still very capable on the feet, still sharp, still has good movement. He's best when he's coming forward. The striking diversity is there. Fakes and feints are included in his attack. His kicks are pretty solid as well. And he's well-rounded, right? He can land the takedowns, 2 takedowns per fight, 35% on the accuracy side of things. He's a BJJ black belt. That takedown approach can definitely be a legitimate part of his game. And a good example of that, he landed 4 takedowns in his last fight versus a striker, versus someone who had bad takedown defense. He has 5-round cardio to go along with that. Ultimately, like I said, well-rounded veteran, still very capable of putting on a high-level performance. When I look at this fight, Vicente Luque, I almost forget he's still just 31 on paper. Has not been looking good lately. Really experienced fighter. Could almost be one of those fighters that peaked too early. But I don't want to put that tag on him yet because 31 is still fairly young. But he hasn't been looking good lately, right? Being outstruck by good strikers, being taken down by good wrestlers at will. RDA has a bit of both. Luque still is the better striker, in my opinion, but you're concerned with the lack of durability that he showed, especially in his last fight. We know that RDA is not really the biggest welterweight at 170 pounds, so that may not be a factor here the way it was against a Jeff Neal, who's a pure striker, who's big and a true welterweight. But RDA has the takedowns, and I think that'll be a key to him winning this fight. I expect back and forth with the striking, but I expect RDA to do just enough with that ground game to put rounds in his favor. Don't get me wrong, Luque, very capable. Like I said, still just 31 years old. It's been a full year since that last fight. That's enough time to reset, refocus, recalibrate. He's going to be the bigger fighter here, the true welterweight. And that's still Vicente Luque, right? At one point, he was a very dangerous fighter, kind of one of the dark horses in the division. But RDA, he's smart. He knows how to game plan. And I think his game plan should give him the avenues possible to get the win. So I'm picking Rafael Dos Anjos, but I'm acknowledging that it is a main event where Luque is dangerous and where anything can happen. RDA will be my official pick, though.
Yeah, this fight, man, on paper, RDA definitely has the skills, but he's 38. He's an old guy, man, and time's gonna have to catch up to him. And I think that a guy like Luque who needs a win, fighting a smaller welterweight, he's gonna have the size advantage this time. He's gonna have the size advantage, right? So that's gonna be a big factor. And in this fight, I think that Dos Anjos, who could have the moments where he's on top or he's doing what he wants to do with the grappling, but I think at some point, Luque could land something and just turn the fight. We've seen it happen before with Dos Anjos when someone lands really well, like Eddie Alvarez. So he can definitely take a shot, but if you throw a nice shot, you can really alter Dos Anjos. And I think Luque has the power. I think he's going to connect at some point. This is a 5-round fight. Luque has knockouts in the 3rd round, so his power is there. And I think at some point, RDA can get the takedowns, but he has to be careful of the front chokes, the Darce chokes from Luque, who's known for that. So Luque has some grappling, has good jiu-jitsu to handle that area. But on the feet, I think at some point, RDA could be looking good, but I think at some point, Luque is going to land and he's going to put him out of there. I think Luque gets back on track here. I'm going to go with the underdog.
All right, let's take it to Vegas. At that point, let's consider some underdogs in terms of who our underdog of the card is. Let's also take a look at some parlays as well. I will start off, of course, by reading off which fighter is an underdog in each of them. Juliana Miller is an underdog versus Luana Santos. Jose Johnson is an underdog. Montserrat Ruiz is an underdog. Josh Parisian, Isaac Dulgarian, Jamie Pickett, Mike Breeden, AJ Dobson, JP Bays, Polyana Viana, Chris Daukaus, Cub Swanson, and Vicente Luque.
Okay, for me, it's either Vicente Luque or Isaac Dulgarian. I'm going to go with Isaac Dulgarian.
All right, Isaac Dulgarian. My underdog pick, not even too confident in this one, but nonetheless, the underdog I feel that has the best shot at winning would be AJ Dobson versus Tafon Nchukwi. And in terms of parlay picks, who are you taking a look at?
I'm actually doing mine as we speak. So I'll go after you here.
For sure. So for this one, I'm thinking that I got to take a little bit more chances here. I don't love the odds on a lot of these fights. I think there are traps all over this card as well. So I'm going to have to roll the dice a little bit. I think probably my favorite pick on the card is Marcus McGhee. I really like the value on Khalil Rountree. I think Hakeem Dawodu, you kind of just have to bet on him having a better performance. And McKinney needs a win. Despite the IQ, he needs a win, and Breeden is the perfect opponent to get it against. So I don't love doing 4 fights, but I'm gonna have to do a 4 fight for this one. 4 fights will pay out 3.79. That means that $100 will get you 379 in total return for our bigger bettors. 250 will return a total of 949.
Okay. For me, I'm going to go with Hakeem and Dawodu. I'm going to go with Iasmin Lucindo. I'm going to go with Marcus McGhee.
Marcus McGhee. So those 3 fights, 2.78. That means $100 will return a total of 278. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return a total of 696. So let's sign off on that note. This, of course, has been UFC Fight Night, Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. Please hit the thumbs up on this video if you've made it to this point. We would definitely appreciate that. Please subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks as well. Most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. How do you feel about our picks? What are your thoughts on our underdogs? What are your thoughts on our parlays? What parlays are you looking at? What parlays are you considering betting on? Or if you're looking for additional analysis, additional commentary on a specific prop or a specific ticket that you're looking to put together, let that be known in the comments as well. We're more than happy to have that conversation with you. Officially signing off. This has been Boxing MMA Picks for UFC Fight Night. Vicente Luque versus Rafael Dos Anjos. He goes by Zan. I go by Harris in our usual Boxing MMA Picks fashion. Let's get this money.
Let's get it.